So Bhaskar, you have completed your first 6 months in the director's office. How do you like it so far?
Well, Nagarajan, it's been quite a good 6 months. I can't say that I didn't know what to expect, since I have been a dean for 6 years before that. But nevertheless, it's been a good 6 months. I've had, as expected, the highest possible levels of cooperation from everybody, and many nice things have happened in the institute. And I see a lot of teamwork in trying to push forward, trying to take on some of the objectives we have set for ourselves.
Since you took over as the director, you have launched many initiatives. One of them has to do with our undergraduate students, about whom there has been a lot of concern lately regarding their quality at incoming level as well as their performance. Can you tell us a little bit about what steps are being taken to address this issue?
Yeah. So it's been our experience in the last few years particularly that a reasonably large fraction of the students, I'm not saying it's a majority, but maybe about I would say 20% of the students are finding the going difficult in the first year due to various reasons. It has also been clear to us that after about a year, many of them seem to figure out what they have to do. So, but nevertheless, there was a feeling that this experience of going through this trauma, if you want to call it that, in the first year, may be actually turning off a substantial part of that fraction. So we were concerned, and we wanted to see whether we could arrest that earlier. We were also aware that there's no one or two simple reasons why they are having these difficulties. People are coming from very diverse backgrounds now. And I think I've alluded to this in my presentations also. There are all kinds of reasons, from just not being familiar with the kind of approach that we take in the IITs, plus the fact that they are actually training in a very different way for the multiple choice type of JEE, then language, not used, they're all coming from school, not used to the lecture delivery kind of, somewhat distance mode, if you want to call it that, where they're not connecting with their teachers necessarily as much as they used to in school. And finally, it could even be burnout after having struggled so much to get into IIT. So we found that actually what we therefore, realizing that it's a complex situation, we didn't try to find any one medicine that would work. We just said, let's try to offer an opportunity for these students to just get together and study in the department, and in their departments rather than in the physics, maths, chemistry department, with just some assistance from their own final year seniors as TAs. No tuition, no big classes, no formal teaching, just having the seniors around as friends. This seems I've had a lot of meetings now in the last couple of weeks actually with both the TAs and the students, informal meetings at my home, and what we have found is that it seems to work quite well for us, about at least half the students. So that's sort of, I have a feeling that we sort of have addressed half the problem immediately. Then we're also learning that we have to make some changes in the curriculum for the first year, some changes in the way the teachers are approaching the subject. The students also, many of them are frankly admitting that they just did not study enough in the first semester. So we were discussing with them how they would help their next batch from the one junior to them from getting into the same difficulties, whether they would come forward and tell them not to let things slip beyond a point and so on. We are also trying to make sure that they're not distracted too much in the first semester by other co-curricular activities on campus, because there's always a time for that later once they have set. So I think we are taking a very sort of cautious, multi-pronged approach. None of us believe that we have the answers, or these silver bullet that will solve everything. But I think by this, you might call percentage approach, I think we'll be able to whittle down at the problem. And our aim is to actually minimize the number of people who, at the end of the first semester, feel that they don't have their fingers wrapped around the system and what's expected of them and so on.
And academic research is another of your priorities. There is a perception that IITs are not as highly ranked in research as they are in undergraduate education. What steps are being taken to counter this perception?
Yeah, I think the focus on research started many years before, and I have just been continuing with it, and if at all, if anything, trying to give it a push. I think all our colleagues are very focused on research now, and a large number of faculty in IIT do very good research. Now, I don't know what is world class. I suppose you have to go by rankings, and the rankings, of course, that are published are a function of many parameters, including research. And we are actually trying to actively find out where we stand on each of those parameters separately, by actually figuring out in more detail how rankings are done, because we're very keen to know where we stand on research and how to improve. But there are other things we can figure out internally. For example, we have grown our PhD scholar strength enormously. This year, for the first time, in one academic year, we have taken in 400 PhD scholars. You have to compare this with the fact that in the last 2 or 3 years, we've been graduating about less than half that, 170 a year. So this is like doubling. Now, when you have so many PhD scholars on campus, obviously they need more facilities. So one thing we have done in the last few months is really take advantage of some funding opportunities that came our way, and have taken steps to augment a lot of the sophisticated instruments and other facilities on campus. We're also building new buildings and so on as part of the expansion. And I think we have we're just about crossing 500 in faculty strength. So I think research will definitely grow from strength to strength, and the faculty members are very focused on this.
And joint degree programs and other such initiatives will also.
Yeah. So I think we have had a number of successful collaborations with foreign universities. I believe the number is more than 100, and we don't maintain memoranda of understanding unless we have active collaborations. And therefore, when I say the number is more than 100, these are actually active collaborations. Typically, in the case of each university, we might have 1 or 2 faculty members who are very active. Many of them, at least I would suspect more than 15–20%, probably are active enough and fruitful enough that we could possibly, and with universities which are very high standing, that we could possibly explore with them the possibility of joint PhD programs. This will be very good, both and this is bilateral. By the way, many of these MOUs and relationships envisage bilateral movement. So we are looking at actually joint PhD programs where our students spend a year or more at the other university and vice versa. And we have just come out, our Senate has just come out with the document that outlines our terms of engagement. And there are many universities that are very keen. We will go at it in a very, if you want to call it that, a cautious way, in the sense that we'll first make sure there is an active collaboration, that we have actually research scholars and faculty moving to each other, visiting each other's universities. And once we have that as a sort of a basic foundation, we'll build on that with a joint degree program. It won't start the other way around.
Industry interaction is obviously critical, especially in the context of translational research. And on this front, some interesting steps have been taken lately to get faculty to immerse themselves in industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's very important for those of the faculty of IIT Madras who are inclined to do so, to actually engage very actively with industry. And there will always be a certain large fraction who are interested in this. This is important for the country, this is important for our faculty. And of course this is not new. A reasonable number of faculty have been doing this already. But what we thought we would do, and this idea actually I was quite surprised, came to me from 2 or 3 sources about the same time at which I was also thinking about it, is why not do something a little more proactive to try to enable more faculty to engage in industry, particularly given the fact that we have so many young faculty on our rolls. Something like 350 have joined in the last 10 years. Many of them may possibly not have made the openings or connections themselves. So we just asked our faculty to fill in an online survey to let us know how many of them are interested in embedding themselves in industry for a month in summer, or a little more than a month, just to explore what could be done and which industries and which areas and so on. And more than about 300 faculty actually responded saying they work with industry or would like to work with industry. And out of them, about 175 wanted to embed themselves. Presumably the others already are very active. So wanted to embed themselves in industry in summer. Now obviously we cannot ensure that kind of placement, if you want to call it that, by this summer, but definitely before next summer we'll have a large number of these done. And I am very comforted by the fact that industry is showing a lot of interest, not only individual companies but even industry associations like CII and NASSCOM and so on. A lot of our alumni who are in leadership positions in industry have shown keen interest to help, and we are actually trying to engage even CARES, which has been set up recently to enable these connections to be made. So I am very sanguine about where this will lead and the benefits it will bring to our faculty and to the institute and to industry.
So the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem at IIT Madras is more active than ever. I believe that the institute is now taking some steps to help and support these budding entrepreneurs. Can you tell us more about these?
Yeah, so IIT Madras has already in the last few years been helping faculty and students incubate companies. In fact, we already have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 or 3 incubators. What we have done now is to sort of take the policy to the next level, and it's just been approved by the Board of Governors in the last meeting just a few days back, which is to create actually an incubation society. A few other institutions in the country already have it, which will provide the governance but continue with the multiple incubators, because these incubators each have a different focus. We have one focused on rural technology, we have another one focused on biotechnology, we have a third one which is sort of campus wide, which is run out of the, which is sort of, you know, the physical location gives you an idea of what the emphasis is. This third incubator is run out of the management department and so on. So I think it's a good idea. In fact, I've been encouraging our Center for Innovation to actually see if some of the student projects may move on to a incubation stage. So we would probably end up having 4 or 5 incubators with different focus, but they should have a common governance structure, and there are issues which we have to deal with carefully regarding conflict of interest and so on if it arises. And we have to provide all the support that the faculty and students need. In fact, one of the nice aspects of our policy is that we also recognize that we may end up wanting to and actually incubating companies which are neither started by faculty nor students. But let's say there's a very good group of youngsters from outside who approach us, and if it's very worthwhile, why should we limit ourselves? So we have tried to make a very sort of a flexible policy, but at the same time, from the very beginning, ensure that it has good governance and the fair name of the institute is only enhanced and never tarnished, and also that whatever is done in a proper fashion, and what is due to the institute comes to the institute, and what's due to the faculty and students go to the faculty and students.
So, as the first IIT Madras alumnus to become the director of IIT Madras, you have been very active in engaging with alumni since you took over as the director. You have met with alumni chapters now in Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and you are planning to travel to Singapore shortly to participate in the Pan-IIT meeting there, and also to meet with our alumni in the region. And later in June, you are planning a trip to the US to interact with our alumni in that country. Since you have been a very active alumnus and now very actively engaged with alumni as the director, the initiatives that you have just outlined, can you outline some ways in which alumni can actually play a role in helping the institute drive these?
Oh, sure. I think alumni can play a role in almost all these initiatives. You know, obviously I've already talked about the fact that alumni can play a very important role in enabling our faculty to establish very deep and useful connections with the industry, mutually beneficial connections with the industry. By working with the faculty and looking for the opportunities and finding the connections, finding the right. It's not even the personal connections, but the connections at the level of the research. You know, making sure that that we make the right connections between the people in industry and the groups in industry that would benefit from the faculty members' knowledge and vice versa. Similarly, on the joint degree PhD degree program, I think alumni who are faculty in universities all over the world can play a very big role in this. And in fact, in my oncoming trips to the US and Singapore, I plan to focus quite a bit on this. I've also in the entrepreneurship, I think there are many alumni who have a lot of experience in setting up companies and bringing them to a successful level. So I think mentoring, but even investment, venture capital, and also in the governance structures that we have set up, like the incubation society. I think there's a definite possibility that alumni who are interested in contributing by with their time and their thinking, their assistance to us in taking the effort at every stage to the next level. There's a strong, big role that they can play. And finally, I think we are also engaging with alumni, particularly the ones in Chennai. In all whenever we have distinguished visiting faculty from other places all over the world, we are trying to engage with the appropriate set of alumni in each case to make sure that the visitors get to meet the alumni and vice versa. So that I think the idea is to see where we can bring, you never know where you can make the right connections and bring in more value to what we are doing. And that's something that's been on my mind all the time. Yeah.
Of course, financial contributions are always welcome.
I think so. I think that's been going on well, and I don't want to overemphasize that, because already alumni have been doing very well. You know that in the last year, we crossed 10 crores in the year for the first time, and we look very likely to cross 20 crores the next year. So I think the growth rate is good. Alumni are doing a great job, and that's very welcome, because I did mention earlier on that we are augmenting our research facilities on campus, and while we have done quite a bit with funding from the government and from research grants, it turns out that actually there is much more to be done. And one of the avenues I'm exploring is sort of getting very sophisticated facilities through joint through contributions from partly from research grants, partly from corporates through their CSR, and partly through alumni funding. So for example, I know that a large number of faculty on the campus right now is very keen to procure an atomic force microscope, which will be the first of its kind in the country. And that's high on my agenda now, and so I'm looking for ways to make that happen. So I think these are definitely, so it's not just, I think almost everything that I mentioned, there's a role and a place for alumni in making it possible, and making it possible faster and better than it would otherwise be.
So Bhaskar, thanks for taking the time to
share your thoughts
with us.
Thank you very much.
Try to do this again very soon.
Very good. Thank you.